Hello, everyone. It's Jenny, and I am very excited to be talking today with you about bringing historical fiction to life. Now, before we get started, a few warnings. I have two large, very noisy dogs, and if they start barking, I'm going to try to mute or try to quiet them down, but it might happen. One of my dogs right now is actually chewing on a bone, so if you hear that in the background, again, I apologize. Just the nature of working from home, right? So I'm going to bring up the presentation, which is going to make me go away, but I will be back later. Here we go. So bringing historical fiction to life. Now, I thought I would share a little bit about me so you can learn more about my background, because believe it or not, I didn't always want to be in an author. This was something that I didn't start until my late 20s. And I actually started because my husband challenged me to write a book. Now, my background is in advertising, so I use words all day long. So I didn't think writing a book would be that difficult. I was wrong. Writing a book is very challenging, but I also learned very fun and I loved doing it. That first book, though, that I wrote wasn't very good. Neither was the second one. The third one I wrote was a little better, and it actually gave me the opportunity to begin working with a literary agent. Unfortunately, though, that book was never able to sell to a publisher. So I wrote another book. Now, that one finally sold and is on shelves. That one, however, is for adults. So if you have any parents who enjoy reading, send them my way. My first book for your age group was in 2019 when I have these nonfiction books come out. One is on Malala and one is on Bethany. I enjoyed writing these so much. And one of the things I enjoyed most was the research. I love doing research. And I use that same love of research in my historical fiction. My first historical fiction is I Am Defiance, and that is about a young girl set during the Second World War who has to take a stand against Adolf Hitler. And she may or may not do that by being part of a resistance group. My next book is By the Light of Fireflies. This one is about a young girl named Sybil Ludington, who was a real girl during the Revolutionary War, who does a ride much like Paul Revere's. Now, this book has magic in it, which was new for me and fun, and I loved it. So historical fiction can have magic too. I have Over and Out. This is about a young girl during the Berlin Wall era who decides that she wants to escape over the wall, and she's going to invent a way to do it. Lastly, we have Operation Happy, which is about a girl during Pearl Harbor, which is World War II, when Pearl Harbor is bombed. And in order to cope with the scariness of the war, she decides to create a bucket list with her dog. So again, a little bit about me and how I got here, my book so far. I want to start, though, by giving you guys some tips about how to bring historical fiction to life. Now, I could go on and on and on and on about all the different ways to do so, but that would take ages and you would get bored of me. So I'm just going to focus today on three of them. And I'll begin with build your world. Now, I personally, in my own writing, do this with something I call the 3x3 rule. That means in each chapter, you're going to start 1 to 3 new threads. You're going to continue 1 to 3 threads. And you're going to teach us 1 to 3 new things about secondary characters. So again, this is in every new chapter you write. And I'll show you what that looks like in the first chapter of Operation Happy. Now, the first chapter begins Christmas 1938. A dog is at the top of my wish list. Boom. We're going to pause there because already I'm continuing a thread. My character, Jody, has been making lists for years, including Christmas lists. So this predates my book. So I'm continuing this thread that she likes to make these lists. I unwrap number 3, a Monopoly board game. Then I plucked number 5 from under the Christmas tree, a Shirley Temple doll. And number 2, a new Nancy Drew book. But number 1 is still very much missing. Mom asked my older sister, "Are you happy, Peggy?" "Very," Peggy says. As she should be. She got her number 1, a makeup set. Here we have me building my secondary characters. We have her sister, Peggy, who is the type of character who loves makeup and dressing up, very much a girly girl. So I'm establishing my secondary character with this new thread. And how about you, Jody? I nod quickly, like the good soldier I am. I'm a Marine, inducted at birth because of Dad being a commanding officer. Here we go again. I'm continuing this thread that started before the book, that Jody has spent her life as a Marine's daughter, acting as a Marine herself, and we're going to see that throughout the book. And I'm not unhappy. I got a lot of things checked off my wish list, but a dog. I've been aching for a dog. Big and shaggy. I want that dog to take up so much room on my bed, there will barely be a sliver left for me. And when that bed becomes a bed in a new house, and then a different bed after that, going to sleep will always feel the same after I close my eyes, because he will be there, or she. I don't care what my dog is, only that I get one. Dad stands from his armchair and quietly slips from the room. I gather the wrapping paper strewn about our living room. Mom's eyes flick to the doorway. Mine do too. Dad appears. In his hand is a leash. That leash stretches behind him. Attached to that leash is something big and fluffy with a red bow the exact same shade as Dad's robe. I gasp. Peggy squeals. I give her a quick glare. She didn't put a dog on her list. Here, right there, I started a new thread because Peggy and Jody are going to bump heads a few times throughout the book. So this is the first instance of that where Jody kind of gives her sister some side eye there. His name is Happy, Dad says. Yeah, it is. That dog looks nothing short of happy, his tail wagging so hard I'm surprised his feet stay on the ground. I jumped to a stand so fast my glasses nearly fell off my face. Careful now, Dad says. Happy was a sentry dog for the base, but his eyesight's going. He's been more or less a mascot for some time now. Approach him slowly so he can see the shape of you. I do, saying, "Hello, Happy. My name's Jody." And by the time I reach him, he's taking steps toward me too. And I swear, that dog is smiling like no dog I've ever seen before. So again, that's the first chapter. And in it, you can see that I've already done my 3x3 rule. And it really starts to create layers and depth in my book. The second tip, and again, I apologize, my dog is being quite noisy at this moment. Riley, calm down, bud. The second tip is to use words from the era in which you are writing. So I love this little gif of Joey from Friends here, where he's like, sounds awful. Now, the word awful, it can have different meanings from different times. For example, way back in the 1300s, awful meant something that was fearful or you're causing dread, and that makes sense. That's something that we really associate with the word awful. But 200 years, maybe 300 years later, it means full of awe. So that's very different than where it started. In the 1800s, we have very bad. Not even 9 years later, we have excessively very great. And more recently, and I couldn't quite find the date for this one, we use it in a teasing manner. Like, girl, you're awful. So that's not something you'd want to say to somebody if your book is set in the 1300s, because they would be like, excuse me, you're calling me awful? That's horrible. So using the correct words from your era is very important. And I use something called an etymology dictionary in order to make sure that I am using the correct word in the correct time period. The third tip is to keep it exciting. So I have run into some students and kids who think historical fiction is boring. Well, they're wrong. And I say that very teasingly, but historical fiction can be so exciting. And part of that is us making it exciting with our writing. I mean, my books have spies and escapes and bombs and heroic deeds and these fast-paced moments. Like, I think my books personally are exciting. And one way that I try to make sure that they're exciting is I show, don't tell. Now, what does this mean? It means that if you're telling somebody something, you would say something like, I'm nervous. I'm telling you I'm nervous. Here is how you would show. A chill runs down my spine. We need to prepare, I whisper to Peggy. For real. So you get the sense that she's nervous because of the chill, because of the fact that she's whispering, because of the urgency. So that is how you can show. Another way you can also show is by letting your characters chat. Dialogue is something that I lean on a lot in my writing. It helps establish your character's voice. Maybe they're playful, maybe they're serious, maybe they're sarcastic. And that's something that you get across in dialogue. And it also allows you to establish the depth and the layers. Here's an example. I think Sarah and I could be friends, but important question, I say. Do you like dogs? No, she says. I love them. So here we're establishing that Sarah, she could be pretty funny and she's fun, and they're going to become fast friends because of that one quick line where she goes, no, I love them. Because at first, Jodi's probably like, what? No, you don't like dogs. But then she quickly follows it up with how she loves them. So this is an example, again, of dialogue, how you can build your characters and make your book more fun and exciting. Also, a way to keep it exciting is being descriptive with your writing. And I'm going to quickly go through some examples here that all touch upon our sensory items. So sight, the sky is dark, the sun all but hidden by plumes of darkness. So I'm not telling you, but I'm showing you by the idea that there's these plumes. We have sound. A cascade of bombs drop into the water and create soaring geysers of water. Hiss, splash, burst. Hiss, splash, burst. So this was a fun scene to write, and I really wanted those sounds to come to life. Smell. Let me preface this one by saying that in Operation Happy, the dog has his own point of view. So this is actually Happy talking right now. Ever since the blaring noises earlier today, the broccoli stench has been overwhelming. So if anyone has smelled broccoli, you instantly know right now what Happy is smelling. We have taste. The explosion of sourness in my mouth caught me off guard. Now, this one is tricky because it's very easy to say it tasted sour. Now, I think that's perfectly fine. That's technically telling. You're telling someone what it tastes like. And I do think there is a time and place in every book to just simply tell what is happening. Sometimes you want to keep your pace moving more quickly, or sometimes I will show a lot and then I kind of want to punctuate it with a moment of telling. So it's fine if you use the word smell, taste, hear, but if you can, try to eliminate those words and do something like this, where the explosion of sourness in my mouth caught me off guard. There's also touch. I'm walloped in the back with something hard yet squishy and wet. So again, those were very quick walking through the different senses, but using these descriptive words and elements in your book can really keep your reader engaged, and it can really bring the historical aspect of your book to life if you touch upon something unique to your time period. So those are my top 3 tips. And again, I have more, but I really don't want to take up all your time. But the biggest thing about bringing historical fiction to life for me is to have fun. If you're not having fun writing, then your readers won't have fun reading it, if that makes sense. So thank you so much for spending these quick minutes with me. And I hope you will write very descriptive, very fun, very dialogue filled historical fiction. And yeah, thank you for joining me today. Bye.